Hi everyone, Reggie Time here, and today I want to talk about poker as a hobby or a side income rather than poker as a full-time job. As a micro-stakes coach or mentor, or however you want to call it, I speak to a lot of recreational players who naturally they kind of want to improve the game and they want to take it to a point where they're making money from it. That's all good so far, right? I mean, who wants to lose money at poker? Not me, and probably not you. So I'll ask them what the long-term goal is. Are they just wanting to be competitive without it being a huge part of their lives? Are they wanting to take a semi-professional approach, put the hours in as a serious hobbyist to potentially make a life-changing side income alongside their main income or their main job? Or are they wanting to actually be a full-time professional poker player where poker is their sole, or maybe their that major income stream with just small incomes around the side of it? And the guys that I have personally had the most success with are those that answered they either wanted to be a competitive recreational player or a serious hobbyist. So using my own experience as an example, I'm going to explain why I think that choosing one of the first two options is probably going to be better for players that are currently struggling recreational players than choosing the third option, which is becoming trying to jump from being a struggling rec player to being a professional player. So since around 2006, 2007, so probably the last 10 years, I've been in all three positions. I've been a losing recreational player, I've been a serious hobbyist, and I've had a brief stint being a full-time professional poker player. So at first, once I became relatively good at poker, I was more than happy just to be a competitive recreational player. I was playing pretty low volume MTTs, practicing pretty casual bankroll management, and treating poker literally as a hobby, not as an income stream at all, and kind of just enjoying the extra cash that the occasional large MTT score gave me. I mean, maybe I was still a losing player, spending money on my hobby and then getting a big payout now and again, which gave me a lump of money to spend on whatever, spend on holidays or just spend on the children or whatever it was. Poker didn't matter to me as an income stream. I had a decent paying job. I was working in the research and development lab for that detergent manufacturer that's local to me. It was a boring job, but it paid well, and it didn't matter if I won or lost at poker. I was just purely a recreational player, and it was a lot of fun. Poker was exciting, I was enthused by it, and when I had something else to do, it just didn't matter if I didn't play for a few days or a week or even longer. If something else piqued my interest, I could just put poker to one side and it didn't matter, which is, looking back to that time now, quite liberating, really. Then I had a really great heater around 2008, 2009, maybe 2007, 2008, not entirely sure when, and I won around $10,000 in a pretty short period of time, playing deep stack multi-table tournaments across PokerStars, iPoker, and the old Boss Media network. I think it's what Svenska spells on now, Poker Heaven, Virgin, that type of thing. And I won 4 or 5 tournaments in pretty short order, all for decent 4-figure scores, and I was completely in love with the game. I was the envy of all my friends, because as they saw it, I was just making money out of thin air. I was just whoa, look at this, we'll turn up to work one day. I won $2,500 last night, guys. Isn't that wonderful? And I enjoyed just spending the money on my family, on the house, home improvements. We got a new car out of it, just not really thinking of reinvesting in myself, just enjoying the extra money that it gave me. But shortly after that, I pretty much stopped playing tournaments and started to focus on playing cash games. I went from being a complete amateur player to thinking, you know what, I'm kind of enjoying this extra money I'm getting and I want to make it more regularly. And cash games to me seemed the sensible, logical way to go about that. Thinking, I'd rather try and have the same amount of income or side income that I was starting to get from poker, but instead of it coming in kind of the occasional peak with a multi-table tournament win, I wanted regular withdrawals. I wanted to make regular money from poker. So I started to focus on playing cash games. I was still working with the same company. I just wanted to take a more professional approach with poker and try and even the swings out by playing cash games. And I started to harbour ambitions of being a full-time online professional poker player because I didn't like my job very much. As I said, it was well paid, but I didn't like it very much. It was boring, and the thought of just playing poker for my living and not having to work, it was a fantastic dream. And it was something that I really thought I wanted. And this was all like pre-Black Friday. Games were still pretty soft, and I had a lot of success. I really did. I did pretty well at the cash tables too. However, it did come at a price, because poker kind of became an obsession for me, and it was no longer just a hobby. I got to a point, kind of the Tetris effect came in. I was literally dreaming about poker. I was having poker dreams, which I still do from time to time, and it's a little bit sad, a little bit disappointing. I'd rather it didn't happen. It was consuming my thoughts on like a daily basis, and to be frank, I probably became quite the bore to my friends that also like poker, because it was all I talked to them about. If they liked poker, that was all I wanted to talk to them about. I wasn't really interested in them. I was more interested in talking about me to them, and it was pretty fucking ridiculous. At the time, I was mostly playing on the old Betfair client, and it was just absolutely stacked with French and Italian fish. I was pulling money off the site at a rate that you just couldn't understand in 2017. It was ridiculous. It was literally a license to print money. My win rate was around 12 big blinds, 100, and I wasn't even that good at poker. I was okay. I was just a solid nit, and just making tons and tons of money off the huge mistakes other players were making. And this pretty much continued post Black Friday into around 2012. I was making as much money from poker as I was making from my day job. I'd never been so well off. I had lots of money in the bank. I had a really nice two big income streams, or relatively big income streams. I was pretty much living the dream. It was life was good. Then in the summer of 2012, I was made redundant. The company I was working for had been shrinking for years. When I first started working there, it employed over 600 people. That was in the early 90s, late 90s, early 90s. And when I left, there was like less than 250 people. And since then, sadly, it's got even smaller. And there's around 100 people working for it now. I'd seen my redundancy coming for quite a while, because like a lot of the jobs in my department had started to become centralised. We were just an outpost of like a pretty big company. And lots of the work, they become centralised just to cut costs. Once you floated as a PLC, it kind of the pressure to keep the shareholders happy made them centralise a lot of things, cut a lot of costs, and basically the company just shrunk. And it was just like a matter of time before it was like my number came up, and eventually that day came and I was made redundant. I was offered other jobs within other departments of the company as an alternative to redundancy, but they weren't the kind of jobs I wanted. There were some like dirty jobs, shift jobs, just nothing that I really wanted to do. And in the back of my mind, I'd already decided that I wanted to try and become a professional poker player anyway, who made like his sole income from playing poker. So I had a brief chat with my wife. Fortunately, she's a good lass and she's very supportive, and I turned down the alternative positions that were offered to me, and I'd left within a week. I just said, look, I don't really want to, as redundancy, I don't want to work my time off in lieu, so I don't want to work my lieu time. I just want to go. If I'm going, I don't want to be like sitting around for weeks having everyone sympathising with me about me going, and just to be in a long, drawn-out shit process. So there you go. I'd went from having a full-time job to a week later, I was just a professional poker player. That was it. That was my job. I didn't have an income, I didn't have another income, I didn't have any plans to get another job. I was just a professional poker player. And this was in the middle of 2012. I had tons of money in the bank, I had a very healthy bankroll, and I was playing poker as my job. I had literally everything I wanted, or as it turned out, everything that I thought I wanted. But after just a few months, I kind of began to realise, you know what, I don't think I actually want this at all. It was a bonkers time. So for me, online poker, it was just a shitty job. I was staying up most of the night grinding because that was the best time to play. My schedule was pretty much playing from 10 p.m. at night to 4 a.m. in the morning, 6 or 7 days a week. And then when I finished playing at 4 a.m. or sometimes later, I was completely unable to switch off, as we are when you finish a gaming session, a poker session. We can't just switch off and go straight to bed. It's just not how our bodies work. So I ended up going to bed after the wife went to work. The wife would get up at 6 o'clock to go to work. I'd go to bed around 7 o'clock, and I'd end up sleeping most of the day until she came in from work and woke me up. It was a horrible way of life. And quickly, I became quite miserable. I was still making a good income from poker. I was still like pulling money off the sites pretty easily, but I just missed people. I missed having somewhere to go. I missed having some place to be. And I soon realised the importance of like social interaction to my own personal emotional well-being. I didn't like being alone a lot of the time, which you kind of are as an online professional poker player. You spend a lot of time alone, and I kind of realised that wasn't good for me, and I realised that I just needed to go out and get a job and just see people again. It's just really important, and I just wanted to go back to being like a non-professional poker player, which if you'd have said that to me maybe 4 months earlier, I would have laughed at you. I'd have said, no, that's ridiculous. I hate my job. I don't particularly like the people I work with. They're okay, but they're just colleagues. They're not friends. But I found I was wrong. Personally, that view was wrong for me. So, to cut a long story short, because I do tend to ramble on quite a lot, I ended up going and applying for some jobs. I ended up having like a couple of pretty shit jobs. Where the first one was a benefit assessor for like the local authorities, which is basically just assessing housing benefit for people on low incomes or on other kinds of welfare. And it was probably way more depressing than actually being a full-time poker player, because I just hated the job. It was working in a boring, tedious office with boring, tedious people, and the social interaction that I wanted from having a job wasn't there because there was no social interaction, because everyone's heads were just buried in a computer all day trying to figure out like complex, like the complexities of like the benefit system, and making sure that the people you were working for were getting the right benefits given to them. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. So after a while I just kind of quit that job. I didn't like it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to quit the job, and because being a professional poker player is better than this. Shortly after quitting, I then got offered a job. I applied for, my friend works for a local grocery supermarket, and he said he could get me a job in there working for the home delivery, just driving a van around delivering shopping to old dears and what have you. And I kind of like that, because I thought, you know what, it's going to give me the social interaction that I want. I'm going to be out and about. I'm not going to be tied to a desk. And I thought, yeah, it's great. I'll go and do that job. And during the summer, it was a brilliant job. I really enjoyed it. The money was utterly abysmal, but it wasn't about the money, because I was still making plenty from poker. And during the summer, I was driving like around the Lake District in the UK. Beautiful place to work and drive around. And yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it. But during the winter, the one winter that I did, it was really shit, because driving around the mountains and the Lake District in shit weather, when it's blowing a gale and pissing down regularly, so you're soaking wet through and freezing cold all day, that wasn't fun. But we're stuck doing that job because it was giving me that social interaction that I wanted. But more important than that, with it being like a poorly paid job, it jolted me back into being a serious hobbyist poker player, because I needed to still make money. I needed to win to supplement my income, but it wasn't so reliant on the income that I had to like make all the sacrifices I previously made as a full-time player. It kind of it gave me that balance that I wanted. Then in 2014, I made the best career change of my life. I bumped into a friend, asked him what he was doing, and he was working for a company that provides support to adults with learning disabilities or like mental illnesses, mental health issues, mental health problems. And I just knew that was what I wanted to do. The pay it's risible, it's disgusting, it's minimum wage, it's dreadful. But I absolutely love the work, and it gives me exactly what I want. It gives me a sense of job satisfaction. It gives me tons and tons of social interaction, and it actually makes me feel like I'm contributing to society. Because as a poker player, as a professional poker player, you're not contributing to society at all. In the UK, you're not paying tax, you're not paying insurance, you're not giving anything. It's not a nice way of life. It didn't make me feel like I was like being a worthwhile member of the community, and now the job I'm doing does give me that. And I've learned for me now, I mean, it's took me a while to learn there, I finally twigged in around 2014 that having multiple income streams doing things I absolutely love, for like, none of my incomes are really that high hourly. My day job's a shit hourly. My poker hourly is what, like $10 an hour, something like that. And the coaching that I charge for usually is around £10 per hour. So I have like lots of like relatively small income jobs, and I'm very busy. I do lots of hours per week, but because I love it, it doesn't feel like you're working. So I'd say overall my week, I work about 60 hours a week when we put poker in there, poker coaching and the work I do, but I love it all. It doesn't feel like I'm working 60 hours per week, and it's just a way better way of life than forcing myself to do things that I don't enjoy for a higher hourly rate, and then like spending my spare time reflecting on how unhappy I am, which is, it seems like that's like a lot of my peers live their lives. They have like good, well-paid jobs, but then they spend time at home miserable about how much they hate the fucking jobs. It's quite a parody, really. So anyways, to bring this back onto point, for me, and I suspect for like a massive number of current recreational players, poker is a really fantastic hobby, but a real shitty job. It can be a terribly lonely existence, and that's kind of, you know, how it has to be if you're a professional poker player. You are lonely a lot of the time, but it doesn't have to be. You know, you can have it more than that. It doesn't. I mean, such as the nature of the game is, it needs to be lonely if you're a professional. But if you don't want to be lonely, it's not going to be for you. It does kind of necessitate that we have to make some sacrifices if we want to be a professional and we want to make it pay. You have to do it, but a lot of those sacrifices really are expensive prices to pay if you're just going to be earning a relatively small income still from poker. I talk to like so many people, and they're not even making money right now, and they're having like a net negative experience with poker. They're literally forcing themselves to grind at times just to try and meet some badly thought out goals. They're kind of forcing themselves to play when they don't want to, because they haven't got good goals. They harbour ambitions to like be professional poker players at a time when online poker has never been tougher. It's never been harder to be an online pro as it is right now, and they end up like creating an environment for themselves that is just going to be incredibly hard to succeed in. They end up creating like a grind schedule that sucks all of the pleasure from playing. What they end up doing is they turn a pleasurable hobby into some kind of non-pleasurable academic exercise of a grind where they're churning out thousands and thousands of hands on autopilot, and then eventually just sit around wondering why they're not winning, despite thinking that they're working really hard and deserve some success. In some extreme cases, they've even kind of developed an addiction to their terrible grind schedules, and we've all seen them. We've all been on the forums. Some people can become very bitter, very angry people, totally out of love with the game, and it can be just a terribly destructive lifestyle. They develop like a tunnel vision of how they're right and just unlucky. They create all kinds of excuses as to why they're not winning, and they're not really at all receptive to suggestions that it's their approach to the game that's hurting them. They just think this is the only way to do it. There's no other way, and I'm just going to do it this way. And if you tell me I'm doing it wrong, then you're a fucking moron, and I don't want to listen to you. Most of these guys that get that way, they're kind of on a path to either hating the game so much that they just quit in the end because they can't be bothered with it anymore, or even worse, they end up on a path to going broke, and in some extreme cases, they just go broke in real life because the addiction just really grabs hold and they make lots and lots of like really bad choices. So if you feel you're one of the guys that I've just described above, putting hundreds and hundreds of hours in per month, well, not maybe hundreds, but hundreds of hours in per month, making all kinds of sacrifices and like getting little or no reward from it, I genuinely urge you right now to stop and consider your actions. Just take a little break. Just reassess not just your poker options, but also like your life options. If you're just about getting by scraping a living from poker, just consider taking a part-time job to split the financial burden. If you're a losing recreational player, also working a full-time job, just consider a complete change to your poker approach. Consider going back to basics. Consider treating poker just like a hobby, like it was when you started. In the short term, don't even think about monetizing the game in like a serious way. Just focus on learning to love it again, and eventually figuring out how you can monetize it without it altering how you feel about the game or forcing you to make sacrifices that ultimately you're not that comfortable making in like your personal life. As I've said earlier, for the vast majority of us, poker is like a fantastic hobby, but we're at severe risk of ruining that if we allow it to become more than just a hobby and take over more of our lives than is probably good for us. If you're a microstakes player, sit down and set some goals that include poker as a hobby, maybe even as like a small part of your income, but not as anything more than that in the short to medium term. If things work out for you, that's brilliant. In the months and years ahead, it might be that you become good enough to make poker more than just a monetized hobby. But if, like most of us, it doesn't pan out that way and you end up just like not being able to make enough where you can have it as a full-time job, you'll still be left with a hobby that you love, and hopefully, like myself, you'll still be generating some extra money as an income stream that will help improve your quality of life, that will just give you more choices in life, choices of what you want to do as work, so you're not forced to work a job you hate. You might be able to take a lower paid job that you love, things like that. So like the cliff notes of this are really quite simple and very brief. Considering I've rambled on for 20 minutes, the cliff notes really are quite simple and brief. If you're not enjoying the game the way you used to enjoy it due to unrealistic or poor goal setting that you've done, do something about it, and do it now. Reconsider your goals, reassess the goals that you make, include being happy and content as part of your goals, and just make reclaiming the fun element of the game your main priority, because if you're not loving it, let's be honest, you're probably never going to be good at it, and that's kind of where we need to leave it. If you stop loving the game, you're going to stop winning at it, almost certainly. So that's about all from me for now. If you have any comments or feedback, I always love to read them. If you've enjoyed the topic, if you've enjoyed the video or the podcast, call it what you will, please do hit that little thumbs up button. My last video got like 19 thumbs up and I really loved it. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, if you've got something from it, if it's made you think, please do hit that thumbs up button and yeah, give me some feedback. But that's all from me for now. If you have any questions or anything like that, please do leave them and I will try to respond to as many as possible. Bye bye for now.